I'd like to welcome you all. This is the first kickoff for this year, 2021. We are extremely excited about going forward with this committee. Despite the pandemic, we had a very robust year. I tell you, our committees were so active. We had so many great meetings. I have tried, since it's pretty easy to try to just at least listen in, to attend almost all of them and share cross-cultural or cross ideas with the team. But it's been amazing, the agendas you've worked on, the things you've accomplished. We've had some extraordinarily vigorous team leaders, co-chairs. So I wanted to give a special thanks to all of you. Our membership is over 460 people, I believe, and growing still. So we really have a lot of people who are participating. And any of you that are not on a committee, please let Carolyn Bevins know that you would like to be on a committee, and you're allowed to be on more than one. And so another opportunity is when you are on a committee, we are very open about ideas that you want to bring, as long as they're really related to mental health and criminal justice. We do some overlap work with opiates, but there are a lot of task forces working on opiates, so we try to really focus on mental health issues unless they have some overlaps. But please bring those to your committee. The only caveat we have with our co-chairs is that we need to be sensitive that this is the Attorney General's task force as well. And so if there's a politically sensitive issue, we need to make sure we clear it, and our co-chairs will be aware and alert to that, to clear it with the Attorney General to make sure that it's not conflicting with his agenda in his office. But that has rarely ever happened in the 8 years that I did this with Attorney General and Mike DeWine. I don't think we had any issues, and so far none here, but just always wanted to make everybody aware of that. Another opportunity we have this year is the CARES Act. There's a lot of money coming down. There's a mental health block grant, which has a lot more freedom and extends for a couple of years instead of trying to force everybody to spend it immediately, and not so closely tied to COVID uses. So your committees should really think about things that you can apply for that are related to whatever your projects are that might need a grant. Lori Chris, who heads Department of Mental Health, is looking for ideas for expansion of this block grant. And so this is an opportunity, if your project requires funding, to look at that. The only caveat on that one is you have to be aware that it's a short cycle funding. So you don't want to build up a program that hires 10 people and then in 2 years the funding's gone and you can't sustain it. So try to keep that in mind as you develop your programs. How do you then sustain them afterwards? How do you build in long-term longevity with that committee and not have to just all of a sudden fire a bunch of people because you ran out of the grant monies? We've had that problem in the past with some large grants. So I wanted to make sure you are aware of that. We're also very closely coordinating with Recovery Ohio. Many of you have gotten notices of meetings for Recovery Ohio to work on different command centers of different issues. Unfortunately, one of them is going to be happening that I'm on the committee of right during this meeting, so I will have to catch up with them later. But we had a joint meeting with our chairs and the chairs of the committees for Recovery Ohio last year. We're looking for one probably in February of our co-chairs this time, and that we will be working with the Recovery Ohio. All of our different co-chairs will be coordinating with Recovery Ohio. Their new command centers, or I'm not sure what they're calling them now, but maybe Kelly can tell us that because she's probably more integrate to that group. But the command centers are opening up to outside membership. The original groups were administrative folks only. Now they're opening it up to broader partners. And again, we want to coordinate our projects with their projects. So we're going to have that joint meeting. So as many of you as co-chairs that can attend that, we would appreciate that. Then in the last meeting that was focused on housing, the Attorney General, who was able to give us some greetings, announced that he wanted to have a committee focused on the effects of COVID on mental health and criminal justice. So I've met a couple different times with Director Chris and Director Nelson of Recovery Ohio and these command centers that they're putting together, and they have delegated to us the command center for issues regarding reentry and specialized dockets and the effects of COVID. Now we have a reentry committee, which is putting this program on, and we have a specialized docket committee with Chris Nicastro heads. So they have a broader mission. The mission of this one will really focus on the effects of COVID, and particularly they're concerned about a lot of the jails doing early releases, not keeping people in the jails, letting them out in community, but there aren't the supports in the community. We're seeing dramatic rise in homelessness from those that are released from jail without those supports, rearrests and then re-releases into the community. There's challenges that specialized dockets has with probation. How do you maintain social distancing and masks and have conduct in-person meetings with specialized dockets, or the probation officers supervise without the contact, or how do you do urine screens? Just a whole host of issues which really overlap with a lot of the reentry issues. So they're really closely aligned and have the same mission. So this new committee is temporarily called the Surge Committee, just because I need to give it a name. Surge is really the bigger description for all the effects of the pandemic and the virus and the consequences on opiate overdoses and suicides and et cetera. So we have challenged our Surge Committee to come up with more definitive title that they will rename the committee in that. And the co-chairs are Emily Pelfrey, who is the current co-chair of the Juvenile Committee, but she is a former prosecutor. She really understands the system, and she's going to be the Attorney General co-chair. And then we're very proud to announce that Dustin McKee is going to be co-chair. Dustin has been heavily involved in stepping up for years, and then he left stepping up and became executive director of Make a Day Foundation, which does all sorts of reentry work with Franklin County now. So he is boots on the ground, connected to the system. And then Dr. Jeffrey Hunter, who is chair of the Psychiatry and Treatment Committee, because that is a very integral part of this, is going to be sort of like a special advisor to them, helping them through that. He's a physician, he's a trained CIT police officer, and the company he works for, his job with that company deals with all the COVID issues in the health space. So he's very well suited to give some background advice and be part of that team. That said, we have, I think, co-chairs. Almost every committee has given us a representative for that committee. We have just 2 or 3 that we're still looking for, and we'll be reaching out to you personally if you haven't sent someone in already. But now we're opening it to the public. So if anybody's on this meeting that wants to be on that special, now named Surge Committee, but to be renamed, and wants to be part of that group, please email Carolyn Bevins, not me, but Carolyn Bevins. She's maintaining the roster. She'll get the list to the co-chairs, and they're going to meet a lot more frequently than quarterly to get started, because the issues are urgent and very important to the Attorney General. So they'll meet more frequently to get started and get going, and then we can go from there to longer breaks. But I imagine this is going to be a very active committee because of all the issues and because there are opportunities, as I said, with the CARES funding. So those are some initial thoughts and that I wanted to share with all of you. We've been really excited. Our housing committee that we did by Zoom last time, 4 teams, I can't remember which, was extremely well attended. It was a very good program, very robust. Unfortunately, we didn't think to record that one, and we had so many requests for the content. So we've gotten a little wiser now, and I have a very good friend who has done all things with me on veterans for years, is recording this. Sometimes the websites for the state don't have the bandwidth to put a long recording on. So I have a YouTube that he maintains that I know nothing about, and I have no idea how to run it, but Pete Miller runs it for me. We have the Veterans Conference that was held in November on that YouTube. If you have any interest in veterans, go on that YouTube, look at that. It's broken out into segments so you can watch segments. It was one of the best conferences I've been to in my 40, 50 years. So it has a lot of wonderful meat that would be helpful if you're interested in veterans issues. And we will put this recording on YouTube. It'll take him a few days to get it together and edit it. He does an excellent job of putting titles on and everything like that. So that will eventually be on the YouTube, and you'll all get a link to that so you can share it with other people, or if you have to jump off early, you can get back on and watch the rest of it. And with that said, I am now going to turn it over to our two co-chairs who have, again, they're one of the very active, robust committees. They have just a ton of stuff that they present and talk about and do in their meetings. And I reached out to them for reentry for our next subject because it's so prevalent right now with everything that's happening. And that was all I had to do. They ran with it. They designed the program. They got the speakers. It was like easy to manage. So I thank both Kelly and Linda for your diligence and help in putting all this together. And again, wanted to thank all of you. And I'm going to go off the video and off the mute, or go on mute now, so that everybody can focus on the reentry program that our two chairs are going to present. So thank you all.